host, Marian here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am being joined by the amazing Rabbi Tarlin from the American Jewish University, and we are going to be sharing with you guys a guide, a 3-step guide on how to convert to Judaism. So I'm so thankful to have Rabbi Tarlin here. I'll let her introduce herself a little bit to you guys, and then we'll kind of go through. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and we'll try and get to them. And you can always reach out to Rabbi Tarlin. I will have her contact information and contact info for American Jewish University and all of their amazing programs if you're interested in converting to Judaism. Okay, Rabbi Tarlin.
Hi, of course they're interested. I'm Rabbi Tarlin Rabizadeh. I work at the American Jewish University, and I oversee the conversion program, our Introduction to Judaism program, our Miller program, which is the largest in the nation. And I think now we're going global. We have students from all over the world, Senegal, Taiwan. It's been really fascinating teaching in class. And so thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm excited to speak with you. Yeah,
so I'm so thankful that you're here. I have a few other videos on my channel, which I'll also link for you guys, about the process of converting to Judaism. But what I don't have is just a very basic, what does a person do? And I get so many comments on my channel, like, I'm interested in this, I'm pulled to this, I found out I have a relative who's Jewish, where do I start? And I wanted to bring you on here to really help people visualize what the process entails, because I think there's so much mystery, so much unknown, and so it feels a little bit secretive. So I wanted to break down those barriers and just help people understand what's it like. So I know you have a 3-step kind of overarching view of it all. So share it with me, and I'm going to kind of interrupt with any questions as we go.
Please interrupt. I love that. It's just a hard question to answer. And the reason is we don't really have a formula in Judaism. You can ask me a question about anything, and 3 rabbis are going to have, 7 different answers, Right. So it's really, really, really challenging to say, this is what you do. But I'll definitely say, I think the first thing that I would recommend is take a class. This is a journey. You're trying to put on a new identity, and you're trying to see if it fits and if it's for you and it's what you're seeking. And I think that the best way to learn about Judaism is to learn about Judaism and take a class. But as one of my dance teachers once said, you don't watch a dance, you dance a dance.
Right.
So I think, you take a class. You should get a sponsoring rabbi, which is a rabbi that you interview and you find, and you think about, I want to ask these questions, out of class with. So in class, you might learn, in Judaism, you can't blah, 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 blah. And then you go to the side and you talk to your rabbi and you're like, is that really true? And then hopefully that rabbi will be able to explain to you, there's different ways of doing Judaism as well. There's a spectrum, right? And there's often looked at as Orthodox, conservative, and Reform. But for example, I come from a Middle Eastern background. I'm Persian. We don't have that. It's more of a spectrum. So you try to do as much as you can, but also you don't always do everything, So having someone to explore that with. And then I guess the last thing that I would say is you have to join a community. That goes back to dancing the dance. This isn't a comparative religion course in college. If you want to actually see what it feels like, you have to try some of it on and see how it fits. You talk about it, and you have to also do it and go to services and be part of the community and see how it comes alive, out of the book and into your life.
So step 1 that you recommend for folks is to really do that class. And that I know that American Jewish University offers this class specifically, this exact kind of class that someone would want to take. And you mentioned that it's now globally available. So is it an online class at this point, or what is that class structure like for folks?
Great question. I think definitely after COVID, we've gone global more than we did before. Before, people would fly into LA, or we would help support certain synagogues throughout the United States that has the Miller program and teaches it. And we still have that. You'd be surprised. We have students in Kentucky. We have students all over from West to East Coast. But we also offer it globally. I shouldn't say and we also offer it globally and online. So we have virtual classes, West Coast, East Coast, Central Time. And we also have ways that we are helping students from abroad join our courses too, and help them do it abroad as well. So there's many ways.
Anyone can take it.
Anyone can take it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And can you tell me quickly, how long does that taking the class component take in this journey to conversion?
The class itself is 18 sessions. And so let's say you start in February, it ends around July.
Okay.
But the conversion process takes, I usually recommend a year, but there's so many cases where people are getting married or having a baby and they really want to push it. And so I leave that to the sponsoring rabbi, to the rabbi that they're working with, to decide.
Got it.
But but generally it takes a year,
And then does the course, or does your program or another class that someone would take, will they connect a person with the sponsoring rabbi, or is it up to the person who's converting to kind of find that connection?
Great question. I think usually the teacher of the class sort of onboards in the beginning and says, there's so many people in the class, some are converting and some are maybe flirting with the idea and some are just taking a refresher for Judaism. And one of the things we recommend is that you find a rabbi, a sponsoring rabbi, at some point with, during the 18 weeks. So usually a few weeks in, I check in with my class, for example, and see if anybody needs help finding a sponsoring rabbi. We have recommendations all over the nation. So from DC to whatever, and I know exactly, after a while, when you get to know the student, you kind of know maybe what kind of A, personality they could really jive with, and B, maybe what denomination or box they're thinking about. Are they a little bit more liberal? Do they want to kind of go through Judaism on the, maybe a little bit more stringent level, a little bit more traditional. And so once, just like any teacher, once you get to know your students, you get to sort of guide them and say, I know what's going to be a good fit.
Right. But I imagine that this can feel like really intimidating for someone. Like I just know myself personally. We've all heard like the story about, you have to ask 3 times before the rabbi will even take your call. So is it an intimidating process, or are rabbis like generally friendly and excited to meet somebody who's converting?
I think it's a good question. I think generally most of the liberal rabbis are very welcoming and they have a very open tent policy. I myself went through the reform movement, very liberal, but I grew up Persian. So we're very traditional people. So I know that there's a real spectrum. So you might get a little bit more of a traditional response, which is like, let's see how badly you want it. Most rabbis, and me included, I want to make sure that the student wants to do this for them. Right. So I really want to, I don't turn anyone away. I have a conversation right away, but I just want to make sure, they're not being pushed, that this is something that they want to do, that, their family is okay with them, doing it, or, a lot of questions are, what about Christmas? Or what about giving up, this thing? And so it's a process, and, it's just it's really, so yeah, traditionally people used to turn people away, and maybe some people follow that, but most of the people I know in my circle don't. They'll have an initial conversation before they say or yeah, right, come on in.
And so, okay, you've done the class, you've found your sponsoring rabbi and like wonderful and warm community, and you're fully committed to this. Is there a test at the end? Like walk us through the final days until you actually are fully converted.
Totally. Listen, a rabbi is not going to bring you in front of the Beit Din, which is 3 rabbis usually, or, 3 learned Jews, that'll ask you a series of questions about whether or not you're ready to convert. No rabbi is going to lead you to that moment unless they feel like you're ready to do it. So it's not supposed to be embarrassing, but there are sometimes rabbis who ask hard questions, and I think that's good. It's not.
And by hard questions, do you mean like what are the chapters of the Bible, or like why is this important to you? Hard personal or hard informational, if that makes sense.
Very good question. I've rarely been a part of a Beit Din, part of, the ceremony where we let people in, where someone's asked someone to, regurgitate Psalms, whatever, I don't even know that, I'd have to look it up. Okay. It's more about thoughtfulness. So one of the questions, let's say I ask is, what brought you here? Mm-hmm. Where do you see it going? And if I walked into your house, how would I know it's a Jewish home? It's open-ended because as Jews, it should be. There's different ways of living Jewishly. When I was growing up, we were kosher. I wasn't kosher for a while. And now I'm kosher again, which is, adhering to the Jewish dietary laws of no pork or, certain things that you're not allowed to eat. Life is a journey. You change your mind, you go back. you sleep in 5 days a week, then you have kids, you don't sleep in 5 days a week, whatever it is, it's a journey, right? And so we just want to know who they are. The difficult questions I was referring to is if I know that there's a student that their mother or father or somebody in their family was giving them a hard time, I might bring it up. Mm-hmm. And I will warn them that I'm going to bring it up, and that the floodgates and the tears are important, so that we know that they're thought about it, even if it's like, yeah, it's tearing us apart, or it's a work in progress, or actually, I'm not ready.
Right.
And, and that's been rare, but it's happened when that's okay. So we want to have integrity, and we want people to be ready. And like many rabbis have said, and Emma, it's no one's ever going to be ready overnight. This is an ongoing process. So it's only the beginning of their Jewish journey at that point when they convert.
So they meet with the Beit Din, they go through this final conversation, and then the very last step, is that the immersion in the mikveh, or does that happen before? When are you finally like, you are Jewish?
I wish it was like a, bippity boppity boop moment, but it's more that, yeah, it's, so you have that Beit Din, those, the almost like a rabbinic court. And once they say yes, you are ready for immersion. It usually happens right outside of the mikveh. And then, you go into, you get yourself ready. You have to completely, clean up. I mean, you take off any nail polish that you might have. If you want to be really strict, there's rules about even dreadlocks coming out. It's the idea is that you're kind of going into a womb. For those of you who don't know, a mikveh is it's almost like not a baptism, but it's the same idea. It's a body of water, natural water, usually rainwater here in LA, but different in other places where you kind of dunk in a few times. So in Ashkenazi tradition, you do it 3 times. In a lot of Middle Eastern tradition, they do it 5, 7, or even up to 11 times.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Wow,
yeah.
That's fascinating.
These are like certain round numbers, so 3 and 5. And the idea is, there's 3 basic ones you do. There's the blessing for even dipping, and then there's the Shema, which is the prayer that you sort of talk about how God is one. Like, we don't know what God is, but we know it's one. And then, you do the Shechianu blessing, which is the blessing for doing anything for the first time. There's, we even say the Shechianu when we have, let's say, like a fig for the first time. We haven't had a fig all year, and suddenly we have a bite of a fig, you can say the Shechianu. So anytime you do something for the very first time, or for the first time that year, you say that. And then, I always give the option, because, it's one of our own traditions where you can kind of set more intention. So if someone is getting married, or if someone's trying to have a kid, or if someone wants to let go of something, or someone's thinking about the pain of a parent because of this conversion, or some kind of issues in a relationship, anything, to just make that intention and dip. This is like it's an intimate moment with you and your higher self. It is the most beautiful thing to witness, and the most transforming. It's just, ritual is just so transformative.
I love the mikveh, and actually have a video, if you guys want to check out, I will link it below, at American Jewish University's mikveh. And it's just amazing. And if you're in LA, I definitely recommend checking it out. So cool. Okay, so you've done the mikveh, you're officially Jewish. Just because I'm curious about this, is it common to throw a party after? 'Cause I think I personally would want to have a little celebration, or is that not really done?
You do you. I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? What I always recommend right after is go do something Jewish. I love that. Yeah. Go to a Jewish deli, or go buy a Jewish necklace, or do whatever you really wanted to do, but you couldn't do. Go buy a prayer shawl that you can wear next time you go to synagogue, and you can go up and read Torah if you're able to. All of that stuff. Go do Jewish. And so totally, you want to have a party, do it. A lot of my students actually move on to doing their b'nai mitzvah, like their bar and bat mitzvahs that they wish, that they didn't do, they couldn't do. So now that they do it. So totally, we're all about partying. You know that.
Well, I love this. And thank you so much for spelling this out and helping everyone kind of visualize concretely exactly how this year or so long process works. I think it's really helpful. And I'm going to put all the information for the Miller course and everything below. Is there any last things that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure people understand about the process? In my mind, you covered it perfectly, but if there's anything else you want to share, feel free.
Yeah, I think I want to encourage everyone to ask questions. I think that's a tenet of Judaism. And I think that's what makes Judaism so beautiful, that one rabbi is going to have 20 different answers for you. And also that, in our law books, like if you can see some of these books behind me, there are so many rabbis that ask questions, and many of them didn't make it into the ultimate law, but we still save them. And I always use that as an example of how there's no bad question. All my students always ask, Rabbi, this might be a silly question. There's no silly questions. So I want to encourage you to ask questions. And I've learned so much about how beautiful it is to be Jewish because of my conversion students, because they ask me, why do you run around and hold that Torah thing? And I'm like, that's funny. Why do we do that? So there's nothing too simple or silly about it. And actually, I think that's what makes our religion so beautiful. We don't have, a set way of doing things. It's in diversity that we thrive. We have Jews in India and Bangladesh and, Iran, America, Russia. So we're all different, but so much of it is also what unites us. So anyways, I encourage you to ask questions and reach out to rabbis or reach out to me. Thank you, Marian, for putting all of that information out there. And I'm happy to connect you with a local community or someone I know that would be welcoming.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I know everyone watching this video is super appreciative too. So don't forget to give it a big thumbs up to let Rabbi Tarla know how much you appreciated it. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.